And we are live. This is Championship Rings on a Tuesday. The football season is over, so give us a few weeks to come up with a new intro for the show. But as always, I'm Brandon Woods, the host of Brandon's World. That is Ungar to the Max, the host of the Sports Room Talk Show, Josh Ungar. You know, Josh, the Super Bowl was kind of, I think, what we both predicted. Anticlimactic. Not a lot of buzz. And it sort of felt like a fitting conclusion of the way this football season went, which was a dominant defensive performance.
Yeah. Remember how last week I said the New England Patriots offensive line had done a good job keeping Drake May upright?
Yeah, I have no idea where you came up with that analysis, but go on.
The Seattle Seahawks said, hold our beer. Because
Well, actually, the Los Angeles Chargers, Houston Texans, and the Denver Broncos did it before because Drake May was only hit the most out of any quarterback going into a Super Bowl ever in a postseason. But go on.
Will Campbell, who was drafted number 3 or number 4 overall, he looked like a turnstile at a amusement park. I mean, he was just letting Seahawks linebackers and defensive linemen just get to Drake May anytime they wanted. And Sam Darnold really didn't have to do much. That defense absolutely dominated. And for a while, it looked like Jason Myers was going to win Super Bowl MVP because the only points we were getting was from him making field goals.
So, do you remember? You do this a lot to me. When you ask me, do you remember what I said on a previous show? Do you remember what I said I was watching early in the game?
If the Patriots offensive line would hold up.
Yes. So what did I do? The first New England series of the game, I am paying very close attention to Will Campbell and the other guy whose last name I can't pronounce, the left guard, on the offensive line. And if you remember going into the game, I said, well, it was going to be a low scoring game. If the Patriots offensive line could protect, they could maybe find a way to score away. Josh, I watched the first passing play the Patriots had in the game, and I said, well, that's it. I'm wrong. This game's over. Seattle's going to blow them out because you could just tell from watching on the tape how much better Seattle's defensive line was than New England's offensive line. And I also thought Collinsworth made a great point very early on in the Seattle first offensive drive of the game when he was talking about look how aggressive the Patriots defensive backs are at jumping the routes of the Seahawks because they're trying to score on defense because they don't believe they can score much offensively. And I said it was going to be a low scoring game. We both said there's a very high possibility that the quarterbacks are not going to win the MVP, even though it really is mostly a quarterback award. It was really a game where Seattle won in the trenches. Their front four got to New England's front four. And I also think that for the Patriots, I thought that was one of the most conservative, disappointing, no life, offensive game plans I have ever seen in the history of the Super Bowl. And I don't think Josh McDaniels is getting enough backlash from the NFL at large as to what the hell was that game plan. They ran the ball on every first down in the first half. They punted the ball on every drive in the first half. And really, they didn't let Drake May for the football down the field. It was like they were protecting Drake May because they did not protect him. And in my opinion, that was one of the biggest mistakes of the game.
Yeah, I remember I said last week that this would be a high scoring game. And, well, I was proven dead wrong on that. And I think the reason I had said that is because we saw what Seattle did in the divisional round against San Francisco. We saw what Seattle did against the Rams, which, if you remember, I was asking the question after that game. I said, was that the real Super Bowl? And you said, well, let's see who comes out of the AFC. Which now that we know what ended up happening, I have to say Rams Seahawks Part 3 in the NFC Championship, that was the real Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I know we talked about this a little bit over text. I know it's the first thing I sent you as soon as the game ended. I tried this year to defend New England because teams like the 1999 Rams had the third easiest schedule in history and won a Super Bowl. But when you get blown out like that and you look like that you don't even belong on the football field, that is when the easy schedule comes into point. And to your point, listen, Sam Darnold was 19 of 38. He had 200 something yards. He did make some really good plays where there was a couple times where Milton Williams or Christian Barmore or one of the Patriots defenders had him in the backfield and he slipped out of a sack and either threw the ball away or got a completion for some yards. But, I mean, Seattle was running the football on 3rd and 12 and consent to kicking field goals because they believe the Patriots cannot score on them.
Can we give Christian Gonzalez some credit, though? Because he played phenomenal in this game. He really did. Like, I know JSN left the game early with an injury, but still, Christian Gonzalez, basically for how long JSN was in there, JSN wasn't really a factor. And you got to give Christian Gonzalez credit.
Well, but what did I say, Josh, going into the game? If you look at Super Bowls historically, the number one wide receivers do not have big games in Super Bowls. I thought it was going to be a Cooper Kupp or a Raheem Shaheed type game. And by the way, JSN got hurt. He had a little bit of a concussion he had to get checked out for. And really, it didn't matter by that point because Seattle was just dominating the football. I mean, JSN was used in that game mostly as a decoy. Was Christian Gonzalez absolutely the best player in the field for the Patriots? Yes, I think if some by grace of miracle, they win the game here, I think Christian Gonzalez would have been the MVP of the game. So he's a great corner. He's going to get paid. He's probably going to get, top of the money market for a corner. I thought he played a great game. However, it didn't really matter in retrospect.
No, you're right. I felt like the Patriots offense left their defense out to dry because, yes, you're right. Seattle was effective at running the ball, but for the most part, the Patriots defense held their own. It's not like...
I mean, the Patriots offense in 6 out of their first 7 drives went 3 and out, and that's when you knew they're not going to win the game because, to your point, their defense, who had done a good job, held into 4 field goals initially, but when you're out on the field for that long, and not getting a break, eventually the defense is going to break.
Yeah, but again, it's not like Seattle ever hit this home run pass. Like, yes,
I mean, they had a couple opportunities. The one Darnold missed to JSN on the broken play early on would have been a walk-in touchdown. Gonzalez saved a touchdown twice against Shaheed. So at least Seattle, they did take opportunities down the field, which New England did not do. Again, I thought New England's offensive game plan was let's not lose the game. And to me, that's what ultimately let them lose the game.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of criticism about whether New England truly is one of the top contenders in the AFC because they got dominated by the Seahawks in the fashion they did and because of the schedule argument. But for them to go on the road, beat Denver, yes, the Broncos had a backup quarterback, but both teams had to play in the snowstorm. New England made the adjustments. Denver did not. They had to go against 2 of the elite or 3 really of the elite defenses in the AFC in the Chargers, Houston, and Denver. Although I will still say Seattle's was the toughest defensive unit that they faced. no disrespect to the other teams, but for New England to even get there, I mean, you you can't like discredit
I
them entirely.
I mean, but from what we know now, you can't totally give them credit either. Let me just lay this out there. Out of the 17 games they played this year, 11 of those games, the coach got fired, and two more were against the Jets, and another one of those was against Joe Flacco and the Cincinnati Bengals, not Joe Burrow. And the other thing is, I think you can make the argument two things on two of the playoff games. Number one, if CJ Stroud, if the Texans just take a knee instead of turning the ball over 5 times, they might have beat New England in that divisional round game because, well, the Patriots offense was not doing that well. They scored mostly off turnovers in the first half. I give you Drake May played a better second half, threw that great ball to Keyshawn Booty to clinch the game, but that game was a lot closer than it should have been. And then I do think in my heart of hearts, and weather has a lot to do with it, I give you it. And Denver missed the fourth down. I understand that. But I do think A, if Bo Nix plays, and or B, if the game does not turn into a complete whiteout where you can't even see the field, even with Jared Stidham, I'm not sure New England's in this game.
Yeah, but again, both teams had to play in the total whiteout, and
Okay, they did. New England made one adjustment, and by the way, people forget if what's his face, the special teamer, I'm forgetting his name, the kid that blocked the field goal. It's like a 45, 46-yard field goal off the foot of Watts. If that ball isn't blocked, I don't know if New England wins that game. Not moving the ball either.
yeah, and if Sean Payton had actually called like a legitimate fourth down play instead of whatever that was, you're right. Denver very well could have won that game.
I guess my takeaway is I think there are about 8 teams in the AFC next year who I think legitimately are better than New England. I'm not even sure at this point New England's a playoff team next year.
No, it's interesting that you say that. Cam Newton on First Take the other day said the same thing. Like, so you think this was a fluke run for New England? You don't think they're here to stay?
Listen, I think over time they will get better, and I think in the next year or two they will get better. But I think there's two things going against them this year. Number one is the perennial Super Bowl loser hangover, which will always happen, and New England's going to have to deal with it. And the fact that they're now going to have to play a first place schedule and not a fourth place schedule to me is a big deal. And number two, the fact that Patrick Mahomes will be back and healthy. Joe Burrow will be back and healthy. Lamar Jackson will be back and healthy. Justin Herbert, I think now has a legitimate offensive coordinator in Mike McDaniel. I think the Tennessee Titans may be one of those teams that go from worst to first in the AFC South. I think the Texans defense is legitimate and still here. I think the Jaguars, what they did this year, are legitimate. We'll see. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers comes back in Pittsburgh and Mike McCarthy, they're going to win somewhere between 8, 9, and 10 games. And Denver, listen, they're Bo Nix on a rookie contract. I think Sean Payton has a better feel for personnel, personally, at least on the offense side of the ball, than Mike Vrabel. So I just think that is a lot of competition to for sure say that they're going to get back to this spot. They very well could. But I will tell you one thing that I will guarantee you right here today. They're not winning 14 games again. At the most, could they win 10 or 11? Maybe. I'll have to see if the schedule really does shake out.
I don't think New England is going to fall off the face of the earth. I really don't.
No, I'm not saying that they're going to fall off the face of the earth, but the Lions went 9-8 and missed the playoffs this year. Could that be the case for New England? Sure, it could.
Here's the thing, though. There was only one vote separating Matt Stafford and Drake May in the MVP voting, if you remember. Mike Vrabel won Coach of the Year. He took a team that had a losing record the past 2 seasons. I think they were 4-13 both last season and the season prior, if I recall that correctly.
Hey, Josh, there was a 2-time coach of the year in Cleveland who now is no longer employed. So what does that mean?
Fair. He should not have been fired. Don't get me started on that. I'm still
It's
pissed.
just the point. By the way, most coaches of the years, you look historically, within the next 2-3 years, they're actually fired.
Yeah, Brian Daboll is a perfect example of that.
Yep.
But let's, you asked this question: did Kenneth Walker deserve Super Bowl MVP? He was Seattle's offense. I mean, no, he didn't score an offensive touchdown, but he was the reason Seattle was able to move the ball offensively. I mean, really, you could have given it to one of the defensive players. Like, I get it, because the defense dominated. But, again, offensively, JSN wasn't really doing anything, as you said. Sam Darnold was good, not great.
I mean, he completed 50% of his passes. He couldn't win the MVP.
So, for me, it made sense that Kenneth Walker won Super Bowl MVP. You don't have to score a touchdown to be effective.
No, I completely agree with you. I think Kenneth Walker should have won MVP, and I think the only other argument you could have made for a player would be Devin Witherspoon, who got in a couple of sacks. He's the one that picked up on that scoop and score at the end of the game, which I guess they ruled an interception somehow. That I don't understand. I thought it was a fumble and a return. But he only blitzed, I think I saw like on 20 snaps going into the game, and then he ended up blitzing 8 or 9 times in the game itself. So Seattle, I thought, did a really good job at coming out with a different game plan defensively, and New England was not ready for it. And to your point, like Dexter Lawrence got a couple of sacks. I think Leonard Williams got a couple of sacks. Some other people got a sack here and there. It wasn't just one guy. You could have looked at the blueprint of Malcolm Smith and Super Bowl 48 when Seattle absolutely crushed Denver. But I think Kenneth Walker was the only one in the first half, especially moving the football for Seattle. The fact that he had over 100 yards in the first half shocked me, especially with those 2 defensive tackles for New England. I thought they would be able to stop the run. As you and I both said, that was going to be the key for both teams' defenses. And the ironic thing is, with Kenneth Walker, he may have won Super Bowl MVP. There is no guarantee that this coming September he is in a Seahawks uniform.
I very much doubt Seattle's going to let him leave the building.
Well, to me, it depends on if they think Zach Charbonnet is healthy, they're not going to want to pay 2 running backs. So they either can franchise tag Walker, which I think is a possibility, but I do think there is a world if some team wants to pay him because they saw what he just did, he may walk.
You know what's interesting is over the offseason, Clint Kubiak was the name we kept hearing in terms of head coaching candidates for Seattle. I'm saying like he was the name on Seattle's staff that was being considered for head coaching opportunities. And yet we saw what Seattle's defense did on Sunday in the Super Bowl. And you never really heard Seattle's defensive coordinator being mentioned for head coaching opportunities.
Because it is exquisitely stated that is Mike McDonald's defense. He runs it. He's the play caller. Very similar to like a Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, etc.
Fair, but I still think it's interesting that when your defense is that effective, the defensive coordinator should get some consideration.
From what I've been told, he's being considered in Cleveland for the Browns defensive coordinator position.
Oh, don't get me started on that one. Good God.
But yeah, I mean, again, this was a weird Super Bowl. Walker becomes the first running back in the Super Bowl era since Terrell Davis in 1998 to win Super Bowl MVP. And it is sort of this ironic thing where last year with Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, sort of bringing back the importance of the running back position for now a running back to win MVP. You do wonder if, and Saquon Barkley accounted last year for only 1.9% of the Eagles' cap, which was the highest in over a decade. You do wonder now if teams are going to look and say, do we need to pay a running back? And again, I think a team out there like if the Raiders didn't have Ashton Genty, I could totally see them saying, okay, we could sign Kenneth Walker. Maybe like a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team or a team that feels like they need more of a running game. Maybe New Orleans, if they don't feel like Alvin Kamara's up to par anymore. Like, I think there is a place where Walker could get paid and be a starter somewhere else.
Yeah. Walker yes, he had the tough yards. Maybe the quietest MVP gather. I agree with that.
Well, yeah, I mean, the game was quiet. I mean, how many non-football fans did I talk to on Monday that basically said I watched the halftime show and went to bed?
And the commercials stunk.
Oh, I 100% agree with you on that. It was nothing but sports betting and AI commercials. It was a really, this Super Bowl going into it, and I said this. I think I had this in it more than you. It was a boring Super Bowl. There was no hype behind it. There was no enemy. Nobody cared who won. It didn't even feel like Super Bowl Sunday. It did not feel like the big game, though I did think NBC did a terrific job on it.
Yeah. Let's see. Question. What did Eagles fans and Browns fans learn from this Super Bowl?
Well, Grandizer, Eagles fans didn't need to learn anything because we've already been to the Super Bowl, 2 times in the last 3 years. Browns fans should learn that you need a whole team and you need a quarterback and you need a lot of help, and you're nowhere close to the Seahawks.
No, the Browns are not in a position to make the Super Bowl. I'm not going to be one of these delusional Browns fans that saw the Super Bowl 61 logo and said, oh, that looks like the shores of Lake Erie. No, I'm not going to do that.
All right, go ahead.
Huh? By the way, I want to talk about that because the Super Bowl 61 logo did come out, and there's a lot of orange on it, and the waves in it are kind of like a teal or an aqua. So people are thinking it could be like a Bears-Dolphins Super Bowl.
That would make Grandizer happy. I will put a lot of money that it will not be the Dolphins. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I could see it being the Bears, and which, if it is, I would love to see them play the Jaguars. That's the Super Bowl I wanted to see this season. I will put this out there now. I know we're not going to do our NFL predictions show for quite a while, but for Super Bowl 61, I'm going to say it right here, right now. At SoFi Stadium on Valentine's Day on ESPN, it will be Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears going against Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars.
You know what? I don't mind that pick since we're doing this, and it does kind of tie into our next topic, which is should Seattle be favored to repeat. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. Representing the NFC for what may possibly be his final career game in the NFL in his home stadium, Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams.
I could see it, honestly, because the Rams and Seahawks, rightfully so, as of right now, from what I saw, they are the co-favorites to win Super Bowl 61 next season.
Yeah, and that we'll talk about that here in a minute. Them in Seattle are. But here's a fun one, Josh.
That's what I said.
Not only will the Rams be playing in their home stadium for the Super Bowl, but so will the AFC opponent, because we're going to have an all LA Super Bowl in their home stadium because Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh, with Mike McDaniel as their offensive coordinator, are representing the AFC.
In order to win the game, you have to win the game.
So, I mean, should Seattle be favored to repeat? Listen, we kind of talked about this a little bit last week, where I think in the NFL, I just mentioned to you all of the teams in the AFC that I think could pose threats to the Patriots. In the NFC, you got my Philadelphia Eagles, who are still right out there as a Super Bowl ish contender. You have Jaden Daniels making his return, and we think he's going to be fully healthy with the Commanders. I think Jackson Dart and the Giants are going to be a very improved team. I'm not saying Super Bowl team, but I do think they're going to be very improved. They could be like from a Jaguars S team where it's like they're maybe a year away. We know what the NFC West brings. And I do think, and not a lot of people are covering this a lot, but I think Mike LaFleur, depending on who they get at quarterback in Arizona, I think Arizona could be a very sneaky, frisky team. The NFC North had all four teams over 500 last year. That could theoretically happen again. And then I talked about last week how I think the NFC South overall has gotten better with not only coaching additions, but player additions. So I think we're at a point in the NFL right now where we know the Jets are going to be bad. We know the Browns are going to be bad. But that's like two teams right now, in my opinion, that I feel like we know are going to be bad. It'll end up being 4 or 5. The Cowboys could theoretically fall apart. We don't know. I'm very optimistic about the Raiders' future with Fernando Mendoza and Kubiak. I'm optimistic, as I mentioned, about Robert Sala and Cam Ward in Tennessee. So I don't think there is. I mean, I do think Seattle's got a really good team. They got a really good roster. But my one worry about Seattle is going to be who are they going to get to replace Clint Kubiak? Because I think Sam Darnold's found his home. But take it from me, I've won a Super Bowl twice. I have been, since I've been alive and remembered, one other Super Bowl because I don't quite remember Super Bowl 39. But when you win a Super Bowl, there is this element of we can relax a little bit. We're the champs. Come get us. And I think that now people are going to pay attention to Seattle because let's face it, even throughout the playoff run, it sort of felt like Seattle was underestimated because nobody watched them the whole year because they were at the 405 corner TV game and not a lot of national TV games.
Let's see. Wade Green, Browns versus Rams, Super Bowl 20. I like that. Yeah, not happening. The Browns are nowhere near being a Super Bowl contender, let alone a playoff contender. No, you perfectly illustrated it. I do think there's one or two teams in the NFC I can kind of confidently say they're going to be bad. As much as I love Baker Mayfield, I do think the Buccaneers will be one of those teams, even though they.
My take is I think the Bucs could finish last in the NFC South next year.
As much as I love Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, Emeka Ibuka, Baker, they still have Todd Bowles as their head coach. I don't need to say any more than that. I agree with you about Dallas, although their offense is going to be awesome again because they franchise tagged George Pickens, but their defense.
Did they franchise tag Pickens? I didn't hear that.
I think I saw that, yes.
Okay.
But, I mean, is their defense going to be any better? I don't think so. So, yeah. And as much as I love Jaden Daniels, I don't trust the Commanders. I don't.
Okay. I mean, they did make the NFC Championship game 2 seasons ago. Again, I think the draft is going to tell us a lot. And this draft, we'll get into it more as the season hits, but it's a very offensive line, defensive line, edge draft. And there's outside of Mendoza, the quarterback class is pretty weak. And there's not a lot of players that you go, oh my God, I have to get this player. I have to move up. A lot of these players in the same similar group, very similar players. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of movement per se in this draft either.
Well, you say that, but even in the years we think that's the case, we usually do end up getting a lot of movement.
No, you're right. You're right.
So I do disagree with you about it, what you're saying, though I understand your point. But, we're all going to say Seattle should be right back in the mix. But again, I think you have more established teams in the NFC. A lot of the teams in the AFC, like Jacksonville, Houston, the Chargers, Denver to a certain degree, as much as I like them, Baltimore, you have more questions about those teams for a number of reasons, whereas you don't have the same level of questioning in the NFC. Maybe for a team like Chicago and Carolina, since they did what they did, relatively off schedule, or not off schedule, ahead of schedule, if you
Ahead of
will.
schedule, yeah.
Yes. So maybe Carolina and Chicago are the teams you're questioning, but you're not really questioning Seattle, the Rams, there are some questions with Philadelphia, rightfully so.
There are certainly, with the new scheme, I think it's either going to be a great fit or it's going to be a complete disaster. Like
But
I see this Eagles team being either conference championship or Super Bowl or bust, or the whole thing is blown up.
do you get what I'm saying overall?
Yes.
So, like Green Bay, you don't have a ton of questions, though there are some. Detroit, you don't have a ton, but there are some. I feel like there are way more questions to be asked on the AFC side.
Josh, I'm going to play a quick little fun exercise for you, real quick. So let's assume the Rams and Niners are playing week 1 in Australia and take those two teams off the board. Out of the Arizona Cardinals, Dallas Cowboys, New York Giants, Kansas City Chiefs, Los Angeles Chargers, the Patriots in a Super Bowl rematch, or the Chicago Bears, who would you like to see Seattle open the season against?
Well, my answer would be the LA Rams, but like you said, that's probably not going to be the case because of the Australia game. So I would actually go with the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I agree with you somewhat. I think the Bears would be a great choice. Dallas, I don't think you do because we saw them last year. Kansas City, I don't think you do because we don't know for sure yet if Mahomes is going to be back by week 1 or not. New England, I don't think you do because of what we just saw in the Super Bowl. So it really comes down to the Giants, which I think would be a real interesting choice. You get the New York market, you get John Harbaugh his first game. The Chargers, which again I think would be really cool, to get Harbaugh, McDaniel, Herbert on that stage opening night. But I think you really want to promote your youth. Great market in Chicago. The Bears were one of the best teams in the NFL last year. They had some of the best games in the entire NFL. It feels like to me almost a no-brainer to go with Chicago.
Yeah. Well, you both didn't even address why Jason Myers should have won Super Bowl MVP. Come on.
Well, there would have been an argument if his field goals would have been from like 50 yards, all 4 of them. A couple of them were chip shots.
Yeah. So, but the other thing I wanted to get to was, where was it? Oh, Drew Brees.
Yep.
So the Hall of Fame class got announced during NFL honors. It was Luke Kuechly, which he got in second year on the ballot, which was surprising to me. I didn't think it would come this soon for him. Adam Vinatieri.
Well, a lot of people say he's the best linebacker to ever play the game. So
it was just a little surprising. I'm not saying he didn't deserve it, but I just didn't think.
No, I'm just saying in terms of that standard.
Fair. But the two I really want to highlight were Drew Brees and Larry Fitzgerald. These two guys are two of my all-time favorite players. And I love watching the show Hall of Fame Knocks on NFL Network, and I love the way they do it now, where current Hall of Famers go to knock on the door of the and tell the new people, the guys, like, hey,
Yes.
you're getting inducted. And for Larry Fitzgerald, they didn't knock on his door. They had him go to like a cruise ship or a yacht, something like that.
Oh, wow.
And waiting to tell him the news was my all-time favorite wide receiver, Randy Moss.
Oh, that's cool.
But
I saw the story about Kuechly because of Greg Olson, which is very emotional with that situation.
yeah. Again, I'm not trying to throw shade towards Luke Kuechly. He definitely deserves it. I just wasn't expecting it to be second year on the ballot. But, in terms of Larry Fitzgerald, when he was one of the best combo wide receivers I have ever seen. And when I say combo wide receiver, what I mean is he wasn't just a speed guy. He wasn't just a power receiver. He was a great receiver that could do both. Like, if you threw it up to him, chances are he's coming down with it. You want him to run like a 20-yard route? Okay, just throw it up to him. He's probably coming down with it. And for him to do that over the course of 17 years, I think that's how long his career was, if I'm not mistaken, 17. And I believe he spent his entire career with the Arizona Cardinals.
He did.
Just amazing. It's unfortunate that he did not win Super Bowl 43. I wish he had made that tackle on James Harrison a little sooner on the interception. But even still, people identify Larry Fitzgerald for that play, even though James Harrison ended up scoring it. I think he scored a touchdown on that interception, if I'm not mistaken.
He did. And it was the last play of the half. And the thing about Larry, too, is he was one of those professional guys. He was a locker room leader. He did his job. He never complained when he was on bad teams. And he was one of those reliable, dependent, efficient wide receivers, which I think is a, I guess more sophisticated way of what you were trying to say as a combo receiver. He could block. You could line him in the slot. You could line him outside. He could take a drag route for a touchdown. He could go deep. Very similar to I guess maybe the best NFL comparison today would be Amon-Ra St. Brown, but at a higher level.
Yeah. And then with Drew Brees, for years I tried to make the argument he was the GOAT instead of Tom Brady. I know I've said this before on the show, but Tom Brady did not convince me he was the GOAT until he left New England, and in his first year, he led Tampa Bay to the Super Bowl. That's just me. But for Drew to do what he did throughout his career, he suffers that injury for the Chargers, and it's like, okay, his time with the Chargers is done, and we didn't even know if he was going to be able to stay in the NFL because of how bad that injury was. He comes to New Orleans, teams up with Sean Payton, and they just formed this magical partnership. I know they only ended up winning one Super Bowl, but even still, throughout his career, Drew Brees didn't have anybody notable really at wide receiver or running back. Yes, he had Reggie Bush, but Tom Brady, for example, had Rob Gronkowski, Wes Welker, Randy Moss. Drew Brees, during his Super Bowl winning season, he had Marcus Colston and Jeremy Shockey. So
two pretty good players, by the way. Well, let's not knock those players. Are they Hall of Fame? By the way, I thought Jeremy Shockey was a Hall of Famer. I could be wrong on that.
As far as I know, he is not. But I'm not trying to disrespect Marcus Colson or Jeremy Shockey or Reggie Bush. But what I am trying to say is Drew Brees did with a lot, or he did all these amazing feats, breaking records, winning Super Bowls, making playoff runs with a lot less. Like,
well, I wouldn't say a lot less. I mean, though the two Saints teams that he had the best shot, that 2009 Saints team was very talented. Not a lot of good players, and so was that 2018 team. I mean, they had Kamara, they had Brandon Cooks at the time, was a very good young receiver. That they had another receiver too. I don't know why I can't think of his name right now. It was a really good number one receiver for them.
But you get what I'm trying to say overall.
Because you're acting like he didn't have any talent. Breeze had talent. It's not like he didn't have talent.
No, I know, but like when you think of Tom Brady, he had Hall of Fame caliber players around him. Drew Brees didn't have that.
But I think what also helped Drew was he had a Hall of Fame coach on the offensive side of the ball. I think that helped a lot.
Yeah. But overall, Drew and Larry are two of my all-time favorite players, alongside LaDainian Tomlinson, Maurice Jones-Drew, Randy Moss. I mean, I don't know if I could put together a top 5 for my all-time favorite players. I just know like that group would be it. Not sure of the exact order. Brian Urlacher and Reggie Wayne are also in there. But, I'm just extremely happy for both of those guys. When I was watching NFL Honors and I saw that both of them made the Hall of Fame, oh my God, I was so excited. Like, I literally screamed out of pure excitement for both of them. Because, when I was growing up, I would just watch them and be like, oh my God. These guys are amazing.
So I have 2 takeaways. One of them is, this is my rule when it comes to the Hall of Fame. If I say your name and you scare me as a fan, you're a Hall of Fame. And when I heard that the Eagles had to go up against Drew Brees, I was scared. So Brees is a Hall of Famer. Larry Fitzgerald, Hall of Famer. Luke Kuechly, Hall of Famer. Adam Vinatieri, Hall of Famer. All of the above. Yes, absolutely agree. My other take is those 4 names I just mentioned: Vinatieri, Larry Fitz, Brees, Luke Kuechly. I'm old because I remember when Luke Kuechly was drafted, and now he's in the Hall of Fame.
I know. And of course, one of the big talking points right now is the fact that Bill Belichick did not get in the Hall of Fame. But I'm just like, okay, big deal. Bill Belichick didn't get in. 2 of my all-time favorites did. So for me, I don't
wait a minute. We have to talk about that statement you just made, because 2 weeks ago on this show, you're the one that said it's an outrage that Bill Belichick is not on the first ballot. Now all of a sudden you're saying, no big deal because Larry Fitzgerald got in, so I'm okay with it.
For me, the fact that 2 of my all-time favorites got in trumps that. That's just that's a personal thing. That's all. I still think it's egregious that Bill Belichick did not get in as a first ballot. I'm not retracting that statement, nor am I trying to contradict myself.
Okay, I just want to make sure we gotta have some take integrity on this show.
Yes, I'm trying to keep my take integrity. All I'm trying to say though is the fact that 2 of my all-time favorites got in trumps the egregiousness of Bill Belichick not getting it.
All right, well, the Super Bowl was sort of exciting, especially if you're a Seahawks fan. Josh, how excited are you for what should be a great weekend in Los Angeles? It should celebrate the great start of the National Basketball Association. But yet we all know it's going to be, in my lackluster event.
Yeah. Matt McClung isn't even participating in the dunk contest. I don't even remember who all is in the dunk contest.
Okay, good. I thought you would say that. So I came prepared today, Josh. I have down the list of participants that are going to be in the dunk contest. Do you want to know who these people are?
I'm sure I don't even know them, but go ahead.
Okay, number one from the San Antonio Spurs, Carter Bryant. He's averaging 8 minutes a game and he's averaging 3 points a game this season.
Okay.
Number two from the Lakers, we know him, Jackson Hayes, big man. He's averaging 17 minutes a game, 8 points a game. Okay. I never even heard of this player. I had to look him up. Do you know who Keyshawn Johnson is from the Miami Heat?
No.
By the way, he's been up and down with the team this year. He just got called up from the G League, and he's participating in NBA All-Star Weekend, averaging 8 minutes and 3 points a game. And finally, from the Orlando Magic, no, it is not Pablo Banchero. It's Jace Richardson, who is averaging 12 minutes and 5 points a game. Those folks, by the NBA definition, are allowed to participate in the dunk contest. Yay!
Womp, womp. That's what I say to that. Damian Lillard's in the three-point contest, and so is Donovan Mitchell.
Damian Lillard, has he even played this year? He's out. He's still out with his Achilles injury, correct?
As far as I know.
So he's going to go out there and do some three-point jump shooting because the NBA sure loves their three-point jump shooting. So the list here for the three-point contest is not at all terrible. Devin Booker from the Suns, Con Knipple from the Hornets, Dame, as you mentioned, from the Blazers, Tyrese Maxey from the Sixers, as you mentioned, Donovan Mitchell from the Cavs, Jamal Murray from the Nuggets, Bobby Portis from the Milwaukee Bucks, and Norman Powell from the Miami Heat.
Okay, that's actually a decent group. I kind of like that. But why aren't we doing like a Steph versus Sabrina type of bet? When they did that a couple years ago, I loved it. I remember you and I were talking about it on the show, and I said that was the event I was most excited for at NBA All-Star Weekend. And we've got, Caitlin Clark in the WNBA now. Why not do something with her and one of the great three-point shooters? I understand Steph is out. Brandon Ingram from the Toronto Raptors has replaced him. But still, why not have Caitlin Clark go against a different three-point shooter from the NBA? Something like that. What I really wish we could do is do some type of combined WNBA and NBA All-Star Weekend event. Like in the regular three-point contest, let's have WNBA players in there. Obviously, or I shouldn't say obviously, but you're most likely not going to put WNBA players in the dunk contest. I understand that.
I mean, at this point, you can put anybody in the dunk contest.
True. But do you get what I'm saying overall?
So, yes, here is my argument about All-Star Weekend. That, in my opinion, and I've been saying this for years, the NBA needs to actually have all-stars compete in this Saturday night showcase. You should not have random players because you need to form like a Team New York or whatever for the skills competition, or get just three-point shooters for the three-point contest, or get random guys for the dunk contest. What happened back in the day? Us rewarding all-stars for having a good season. Now it's like, we can't find anybody to do these contests. Do you want to participate and earn a participation trophy?
It really has become a participation trophy. Like, the reason I loved Major League Baseball All-Star Weekend for so long was because the All-Star game actually had significance. The winner earned home field advantage in the World Series. And I'm like, I love this. Like, you actually make the players care. Because it's like, oh, that means if my team makes it to the World Series, we could have home field advantage in a possible Game 7. It's like, I loved that. Why don't we continue to do that? Like,
Well,
I
the NBA had an opportunity too this year to experiment USA versus the world, an actual 48-minute basketball game. And instead, they said, no, let's break up the USA team into two teams based off age, and then we'll do a 4 12-minute quarters in a round robin format that no one is going to understand. And we're going to have a great all star game where they're not going to play any defense.
it's really going to be pathetic. Honestly, I'd rather watch the AHL All-Star stuff than the NBA All-Star game.
Yeah, I heard that's fun every year, and I heard it's coming to Cleveland next year. My one buddy who's a hockey fan wants to go, so I may end up checking that out.
Yeah,
Um,
it's going to be over my 30th birthday weekend, so that's awesome for me.
and I told you this last week. I'm gonna tape this event. I'm not gonna watch it live. I'm gonna see it, maybe skipping commercials and going for all the hoo ha makes it a better experience. Because I mean, I'll be honest, this All Star Weekend event has also turned into a commercial fest. I do want to see how NBC, who again I think NBC makes the NBA feel big. It makes football feel big. I think it's gonna make baseball feel big when they get the Sunday night package this year.
I think they'll
Um,
make the WNBA feel big because I think I saw the WNBA is coming to NBC as well.
So I'm excited to see how they change their coverage, but I don't know. I mean, LeBron's only got a year or two left. Steph may only have a couple years left. Durant may only have a couple years left. And then we're in this territory of we're going to be completely in an era with players who didn't give a rip about the All Star game.
Yeah, like I said, I loved when the Major League Baseball All-Star Game was the winner gets home field advantage in the World Series. I understand why they did away with that and they wanted to make it be about the record, but still, I I still want to watch Major League Baseball All-Star stuff because you can't really not try in baseball.
Correct.
And like with the home run derby, that's actually fun to watch because you're like, how far are these home runs gonna go?
And there's drama behind it. And NBA All Star Weekend, the Saturday event, used to be one of my favorite nights of the year. I used to love watching the best players try to dunk the ball, try to watch Blake Griffin jump over a car, watch Dwight Howard fly for the air as Superman, watch the best 3-point shooters in the league. The old skills competition they used to do, where it used to be, a player, a Hall of Famer, and then like a WNBA player. And they used to be able to hit a free throw and a layup and a 3-point shot in the half court, and it was timed. Different than what the skills competition is now. Like that used to be fun to watch, and it used to be a showcase for the NBA. Now it's just a place to where you can bring people to LA, and the Atua Dome is going to look beautiful because it's one of those beautiful facilities, I would argue, in our country, and it's just going to be a place where the NBA can sell tickets.
Yeah, like I really haven't heard a lot of hype around the All-Star game or All-Star weekend in general. Like
The other thing is, it doesn't hurt it now that it is literally the week after the Super Bowl, and who knows? Maybe the NBA and the NFL does push it back to President's Day weekend. Maybe the NBA is going to be forced to either move the All Star game up or back, and it could help. I don't know.
By the way, next year the Super Bowl 61 is going to be on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, it is. I think everybody's going to say, let's go out to dinner on Saturday night.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. But, no, like, the NHL All-Star Game is going to be fun, although I don't think it's well, I don't think it's happening this season because of the Olympics, but like the Four Nations that they did last year, people loved it. Like,
Yes, they did.
and why can't the NBA do something like that? Just do a straight up USA versus world game. Don't do, oh, we need a round robin format. No, you don't. Like, you know, think about it. We think about how much people cared for the gold medal game. Steph Curry hitting that huge 3-pointer against France. Like, people, I think, still talk about that. You get what I mean?
Absolutely.
So the whole thing is frustrating. And honestly, like, AEW Grand Slam Australia is happening Saturday night. Granted,
Oh, is it happening again? I forgot. Last year was on TNT. It was pushed back because of the
it,
All-Star game.
yeah, it's happening on TNT again. It's going to be later because it's in Australia and it's following Unrivaled basketball. But still, like, I'm more interested in that than I am in NBA All-Star Weekend. And the Daytona 500 is on Sunday. I'm trying to get more into NASCAR, even though NASCAR right now is kind of broken in its own right. I'm more interested in the Daytona 500 than I am in the All-Star Weekend.
Well, maybe the NBA could find a new All-Star in one of its new expansion teams because we talked about this a little bit when they signed their media rights deal last year with NBC and Amazon Prime and ESPN. That expansion was on the table, and it sounds like it's coming to fruition. And outside of the NHL, which again I'm not a fan of, this will be the first big expansion for me in sports of my lifetime.
And Seattle, it sounds like, is at the forefront of it, rightfully so. The Supersonics never should have left Seattle in the first place. Vegas is also at the forefront. I don't know why there's been this sudden sports explosion from Vegas. I heard Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Mexico City are also going to be on the discussion. I think Seattle's like a foregone conclusion. Personally, I don't want an NBA team in Vegas. It just doesn't sit well with me. But it's probably going to happen. It'll be interesting, though, to see the ripple effects of it because both Seattle and Vegas are going to be in the Western Conference, which means you're probably going to have to move a team from the West to the East.
That's the topic, right?
Yeah. And to me, the most logical teams, there's two really, that I would think make the most sense. The Minnesota Timberwolves or the Memphis Grizzlies.
I agree on both fronts. And by the way, if they choose the Grizzlies, it's a crime. Get Anthony Edwards to the East. By the way, if Anthony Edwards and the team was moved to the East right now, I think Anthony Edwards would be the best player in the East. Like the East,
yes.
the East at this point needs the Timberwolves, and we don't need the Grizzlies because John Morant's unreliable. The East needs, and we need a good star because Giannis is hurt or the Bucks are not good. Like all the good teams, we talked about this last week. Outside of the Cavs, Donovan Mitchell and James Harden. How about that last night? That was awesome. But like the 5 best teams in the NBA, maybe all out west.
I agree. And after this James Harden trade, people are starting to say, are the Cleveland Cavaliers the best team in the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, like, I mean, again, Cavs, Celtics, I think the Knicks are still overall probably the best team. If it came down to a playoff series, it'd be my guess. I don't trust the Pistons like me and you talked about. But the point is, and I did my list, by the way, of top 10 NBA players. It's going to come out Tuesday. And if you want to react to it on next Tuesday's show, we can do that. Spoiler alert, not a lot of players in the Eastern Conference.
By the way, I don't know if you saw the news. Jason Tatum is could be on his way back sooner rather than later.
Oh, that's interesting. I did not see that.
Yeah, he had a rehab with the Maine Celtics, the Boston's G League affiliate, and then he's going to start doing more rehab with Boston. So, you know, the Celtics, I think you're right. They're going to go with Peyton Pritchard as their point guard, Derek White at the shooting guard. It doesn't seem like they're going to have Vucevic in their starting lineup, which is kind of interesting because they've been bringing him off the bench.
Yeah.
But to me, Boston is the best team in the Eastern Conference right now. And like, I don't trust the Knicks. I don't trust the Pistons. I need to see more from the Cavs. Evan Mobley is not going to be coming back tomorrow night like we thought he would. Max Strus is still out. I don't know why he's still with us.
Well, that's the thing too about the NBA. They want to preach player safety and the 3-point shot. There's not as many collisions at the basket, and yet all these stars are getting hurt. That Pistons Hornets brawl last night was the best thing that happened in the NBA in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I agree.
I want to see more of that. I want to see Malice of the Palace 2.0. I want to see NBA players care. Oh, they shouldn't be fighting. Football players fight. Baseball players fight more than basketball players, and baseball is considered a non-contact sport by most people.
Yes. On that note, I know it was only a 2-year thing, but I loved the Texas Rangers Toronto Blue Jays rivalry in 2015 and 2016.
Well, what about Dodgers Padres? I mean, they're throwing the ball at Ohtani. They're ready to square up.
Yeah.
And the NBA, no. We can't have anybody fighting. We can't have rivalries anymore. Everybody's got to be buddy. I'm sorry, man. The NBA to me has made so many freaking mistakes that turned people off of the product the last 5 years.
Oh, I 100% agree.
This is the most refreshing thing I've seen on an NBA court since Victor Wembanyama stepped on it for the first time. And the NBA's over there going, we need to suspend people. We need to fine people. This is so wrong for our game. That was great.
It really was. And I've tried to stay off social media because I have not yet watched Duke, North Carolina. But from everything I heard, it was an amazing finish. I definitely.
It was an amazing finish. You're going to want to go back and see it. I think next week on the show, we're going to do our top 10 rivalries in sports.
Yeah.
Or at least top 5. We'll do 5.
But no, you're talking about the fighting and stuff. Go watch an NHL game. The refs try to discourage it, but guess what? Players drop the gloves.
Yes. Can we stop having referees interfere in action and let the players play? That's get organic. And by the way, credit to JB Bickerstaff, words I never thought I'd say in my life, because JB was encouraging the fight.
Yeah. Let's see. Fighting in the NBA.
No, you don't go to the penalty box. You get rewarded with $1 million paycheck bonus.
Yeah.
Listen, this isn't UFC. I get it. But by the way, shout out to Isaiah Stewart, the Pistons center. Just incredible.
Yeah. Your audio cut out, so I didn't hear quite what you said.
I just said shout out to Stewart from the Pistons.
Okay. But, no, I like that we got that because, people might not have liked it, but the bad boy Pistons, like, they didn't care that Michael Jordan was the face of the league. They came in and were like, okay, you got to deal with us.
And what did I argue about this year's Super Bowl? Oh, there's no villain. It's boring. We need villains in sports. The Pistons Hornets could create a whole new rivalry out of nowhere just based off of this.
I agree. Like, why were you and I so invested in last year's World Series between the Blue Jays and Dodgers? because the Dodgers have become the villains in Major League Baseball.
Well, not only that, but there were stars and there were great games and there was even some heated moments. Like it had everything you wanted in a sports series. And again, that's why I didn't really love the Thunder Pacers final series because, yeah, it was great basketball, especially game 7. We haven't seen a game 7 in 9 years, but you didn't have an emotional attachment. Oklahoma City was this great team and they had a great title run, sure. But these teams didn't hate each other. You didn't feel animosity like you felt with Cavs Warriors 9 years earlier.
I agree. Like going to that ALCS last year, like Blue Jays Mariners. That was a great series.
Yes.
Like
name me, well, maybe Nuggets T-Wolves. The series a couple years ago that went to 7, but I'm hard pressed to find in the last 5 years a great NBA series where it had actual meaning to it.
I could point to like Celtics Heat where
maybe that one where it went 7 because Jimmy Butler. Yeah. No, you're right on that. I'll give you that one.
And you had, I think it was game 6 where you had that crazy tip in.
Yeah.
Right at the buzzer.
But I can't think of a time, like even game 7, I wasn't like, oh my God, I have to sit down and watch it. I can't think of a time in the NBA playoffs where I'm like, I have to watch this game.
I agree. Now it's a little bit different for me because I'm just an NBA fan in general. But like tonight, the games on NBA TV, I think one is like Clippers against somebody. I can't remember. And the other one is Lakers Spurs, I think. And I'm like, okay, neither game really is standing out to me. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to watch that. Whereas today we had Canada versus the USA in women's hockey. And I was like, I am so DVRing this game and I'm going to watch it later because Canada USA is one of the great rivalries in hockey. They're the two like top countries. It's going to come down to those two come Olympic time.
Absolutely. And with that, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for tonight. Again, appreciate all you guys for joining us tonight on Championship Rings. We are now in off-season mode, so we're going to talk all things sports, NBA. Sure, we'll go over the All-Star weekend next week, as well as I already mentioned our top 10 rivalries in sports and more. If you have a ton for us to cover, make sure to let us know. You can follow us on all the social medias. Josh, anything else you want to add for tonight?
We've got AEW Grand Slam Australia coming up this weekend. MJF defends the AEW World Championship against Brody King. We've got Hangman Adam Page going against Andrade El Idolo, where the winner will face the AEW World Champion, most likely MJF, at AEW Revolution. And those are the two big ones. So go watch that. Daytona 500 is coming up. I am for sure going to give that a watch. And if you want, tune into NBA All-Star Weekend. But if you don't, you're not really missing anything.
And with that, we'll be back next week on another edition of Championship Rings.
Bye-bye.